Our guest tonight is the newest member of the New York Mets Hall of Fame. During a 21-year baseball career, he pitched from 1984 to 2005 for three different National League teams, the Cincinnati Reds, New York Mets, and Houston Astros. His 1,119 career games pitched in the National League is a record, is ranked third in Major League history. His 424 career saves ranked second in the Major League when he retired and remained the most by a left-hander. For 14 of his 20 seasons, he played for the New York Mets, serving as a team captain in the final years with the team. It's a thrill for us to welcome the four-time All-Star, two-time National League Relief Man of the Year, and winner of the 2001 Lou Gehrig Memorial Award, and as well as the man who joined the 25 other members of the New York Mets Hall of Fame this past week, John Franco. Welcome, John.
Hey, well, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Oh, pleasure. Now, at the induction ceremony, you went out of your way to thank the sanitation workers who were out in full force in the right field bleachers, as your dad, the late Jim Franco, was a New York City Department of Sanitation worker who encouraged your baseball aspirations. You honored your father during your playing career here with the Mets, wearing an orange sanitation department T-shirt underneath your jersey. I did notice that David Wright is also wearing an orange T-shirt that night as well, under his jersey. Can you tell our audience a little bit about what your dad meant to you and what kind of encouragement he gave you along the way?
Well, my dad, as every kid, he looks up to his father, and my father taught me how to play baseball. I have an older brother, Jimmy, who was 5 years older than I, and he taught both of us how to play the game of baseball, how to play it correctly, and how to respect it. So all along through Little League and through Sandlots and then through high school and through college, he just taught me how to respect the game. He used to work with me when I was a young kid on pitching and teach me the old-fashioned overhand drop pitch and throw the ball. He didn't. All in all, he just taught me how to play the game, how to have fun, and how to respect the game.
When you say how to respect the game, what exactly do you mean by that? Because we hear a lot about that, about the players of today not respecting the history of the game and respecting the game. What did your dad teach you about respecting the game?
Well, just when you go on the field, play as hard as you can, as long as you can, and give it the best you can. Don't sugarcoat nothing. If you go out there and give 150%, and even though the results might not be the way you want them sometimes, but as long as you could look at yourself and say, you know what, I gave it the best I can, it just didn't work out today. Those are the little things that he kind of taught me, and I try to instill that and then teach it to my son.
Now, you graduated from Lafayette High School in Brooklyn and St. John's University in Queens, and it's very interesting to note that as part of the weekend's festivities, you were in attendance Friday night when Johan pitched the Mets' first no-hitter in their history. You can offer a little perspective, as while you were at St. John's, you pitched 2 no-hitters in your freshman year. Do you remember much about those games you pitched in, and what was the experience like for you watching Johan take the mound in the ninth?
Well, I remember, pitching back at St. John's, those no-hitters. I remember as the game was going on, nobody wanted to sit next to me, and I heard one of our outfielders, Paul Maluffi, saying, hey, I overheard him tell the guys, listen, he's got a no-hitter going, dive for everything, try to catch everything, don't let nothing get by. And so that kind of just stuck in my head to this day, and you kind of know that you have something special going on, but nobody wants to say nothing to you. They kind of treat you like you got some type of, some kind of stinky funk near you. Nobody wants to come near you. But all in all, I'm sure Johan knew what was going on, and I'm just happy for him. Not happy for the organization, but also happy for him. I mean, he worked so hard the last year and a half to come back from this shoulder injury. And just to show now that, guys who do have this injury can come back because he did it with a lot of hard work.
It's also interesting to note, being a Met fan, that was a great part of history, but also part of being a Met fan is the bad history of trades. And I bring that up for a reason. The Amos Otis for Joe Foy, Nolan Ryan for Jim Fregosi. But there are other franchises that also have their own bad trades. You're originally selected by the LA Dodgers on June 8, 1981 in the 5th round. Before reaching the major leagues, however, you're traded to the Cincinnati Reds on May 9, 1983 with Brett Wise for Rafael Landeskog. And Landeskog batted under 200 before retiring the following year, and you were going to be a star reliever for much of the next 2 decades. And I bring it up because as a kid growing up in Brooklyn and your dad being a big baseball fan, when you're drafted by the LA Dodgers, is that something that you were excited about? And were you disappointed that you never got to actually play a game for the Dodgers?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I was very happy that I got drafted by the Dodgers. The Dodgers organization is a class organization. From my days in high school, from a junior in high school, they always came around. The scouts Steve Lembo and Dick Teese, they came around, and Gil Pacetti, they came around and always invited me to the Dodger tryouts that they used to have at Poly Prep High School. And as a junior, they saw me, and as a senior in high school, they saw me, and then the 3 years in college, they kept coming back, and they saw me progress and get better and better each year. I was happy because my dad was a Brooklyn Dodger fan, but on one hand, I was happy that I got traded because the Dodgers had so much pitching that I don't know, maybe I would have been stuck in the minor leagues. So sometimes when you get traded, things work out for the best. But I would have liked to pitch the game or two with the Dodgers also.
It's interesting to mention that you mentioned the depth, because you take a look back at your climb through the Dodgers organization and the AAA pitching staff that you were on. You take a look at some of the names: Joe Beckwith, Sid Fernandez, Oral Hershiser, Tom Niedenfuhr, Alejandro Pena. Do you remember much about your time with Del Crandall in Albuquerque?
Yeah, I mean, Del was an old-fashioned military guy who ran things like the military there. He was very strict and he had some rules, but he was also, a pretty good catcher in his day. So Del was straightforward, and you appreciate that from a manager. You want him to be honest with you and be truthful with you.
And it doesn't take you long after becoming a Red for you to make your Major League debut. On April 24th, 1984, Vern Rapp calls on you to take the mound in the bottom of the 8th inning with the Reds trailing 3-2. Do you remember much about that walk to the mound, that first time that you're going to be in a Major League game?
Yeah, very nervous. Just want to make sure I didn't mess up, and then just try to get in and out of there without anybody getting hurt.
And another thing is, you take a look at your Cincinnati Red career, and you played under only two managers, well, three with Vern, but Tommy Helms, but Pete Rose for the majority of your time. And for me, I mean, I was a big Charlie Hustle guy, and unfortunately, there's a whole generation now that really don't know the good qualities about Pete Rose. All they remember and know about is the gambling allegations. What was it like for you to play under Pete?
Pete was a great manager to play for. He had two rules: come out, be on time, and play hard. And those were his rules, and that's what he expected of his players, to be like him. And we loved playing for Pete. Pete was a great guy to play for. Kept everybody loose. He was a player's manager. And it's unfortunate that the incidents happened with him, but hopefully one day they'll get him into the Hall of Fame because he deserves to be in there.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you that he definitely should be in the Hall of Fame. You then get the word December 6, 1989, that you're traded by the Reds with Don Brown to the New York Mets for Kip Gross and Randy Myers. What's your first reaction when you hear about the trade?
I was very happy, rooting for the Mets and coming back home to pitch in front of my friends and family. Didn't have to uproot my family. They could live here all year round. Obviously spend a couple of weeks in spring training with me, but it was I'm very happy, growing up as a Mets fan, rooting for the Mets, and now having a chance to play for the Mets, the team I rooted for.
It's also interesting, if you look back at history, that 90 team was pretty much a team in transition. There were parts of the 86 championship team, such as Doc, Darrell, and Hojo, but gone were the Kid and Keith Hernandez. Davey Johnson started the season as manager, but was gone after 42 games, as the team was very talented team with great pitching, was 2 games under 500. Buddy Harrelson takes over the team, and despite the team going for the season 20 games over 500, winning 91 games, they fall 4 short of the Pirates. How disappointing was that season for you to that point in your career that you've come so close to postseason play, but you haven't gotten over that hump yet?
I was very disappointed. You get traded to the team. They made the playoffs in the World Series in '86 and playoffs in '88. And unfortunately, we fell a little short in '90s. Not from a lack of effort, but a good Pittsburgh Pirate team. So unfortunately for me, it was bad timing, but timing's everything in this game.
And unfortunately, that year would be the last time you were close for a long time, as the Mets then went through Buddy Harrelson, Dallas Green, Jeff Torborg, Bobby V. Bobby V comes along and brings back some respectability to the franchise. You were there for the bad years and different managers, different groups of players. You've alluded to the fact that this group reminds you a little of the '99 team. How does a manager bring respectability back to a team? Bobby V did it with your team, and it seems like Terry Collins is doing it now with this group. How does that happen, and why?
Well, as a manager, like Bobby and Terry, they're just letting the guys play. They're letting the guys play, let their talent and raw ability take over. They make a move here and there, being honest with the guys, being upfront with the guys, and having fun. And it seems like this current team is having fun, going out there. They're a bunch of scrappers. They don't give up. and they have that never say die attitude. You know, no matter if they're down by 2 runs in the ninth or 3 runs in the ninth, they always find a way to make it interesting and try to come back and win a lot of ball games. That's a good sign of a good team.
So then after all those years in the majors, you finally have your moment in the postseason. So many players from so many sports say that that is the reason you play the game, is to get to postseason, to have that chance to be the best in sport. What did those 15 postseason appearances over 99 and 2000 mean to you? And more importantly, those 2 postseason wins, which included the only Met win in a World Series game in this past quarter century. What did that mean personally to you?
Well, finally got to the playoffs. You know, you wait such a long time to get in the playoffs to see what everybody else was talking about, to see how you're in the limelight now. All the focus is on those teams in the playoffs, and to get in there and do well, I was very happy, and it was a good accomplishment on my part. But you know, it's everything everybody talked about. Very exciting, electric, and it was great to be part of. I was very happy to get the only win in the World Series, but unfortunately we lost. But all in all, it was a great experience.
Now, this past winter, I got to spend a week with a lot of members of the 2001 New York Mets. I spoke at length with Lenny Harris, Turk Wendell, and Benny Agbayani about the events of 9/11 and the aftermath. Your name came up in each and every one of those conversations. What do you remember about the day, the bus trip home from Pittsburgh, the way the Mets turned Shea Stadium into a recovery and staging area after the attacks, with the players and coaches helping unload and pack supplies that were going down to ground zero, and then 10 days after the destruction of the towers, the Mets played the first Major League sporting event in the city, which really is maybe one of the most famous games in franchise history?
Well, I remember the bus ride home. You know, it was everybody was talking and laughing and doing what you usually do on a bus ride. But when we got over to George Washington Bridge, everybody who was on the left side of the bus came over to the right side of the bus. We saw the lights and the smoke from ground zero, and then you didn't hear a word until we got off the bus at Shea Stadium. You could hear a pin drop on the bus. A couple of days later, we went back to the stadium. We had a workout. Bobby Valentine was like a general, man. He led the team to the recovery station out in the parking lot, and we got loaded trucks and water and whatever else was out there as a team. We wanted to be out there to help as much as we can. And then the game that after the first game back when Mike Piazza hit the home run, that's probably one of the games that I always remember in my career. Just the way that when Mike hit that home run, it's kind of uplifted the stadium and everybody in the stadium. People were laughing, crying, and cheering. And as a member of the Mets, we felt very gratified to bring some happiness back to some of the people in the stands that night, so they could forget, for 2 or 3 hours about what happened in the city.
And it can't really be, it can't be something that's just glossed over, because when I was talking to the 3 of them, it was at Met Fantasy Camp, and there were some emergency rescue workers and some members of the FDNY who basically broke down in tears and just told them that game brought normalcy back to their life, and it was a healing moment for them. So that really, people say some people that didn't follow it say, well, it's only a game and there are more important things, but that really did bring a sense of normalcy and can't say closure, because that's something that will never take place with that particular event, but it meant a lot to so many. So I'm sure our viewers out there want to thank you for that as well.
Okay.
As a lifelong Met fan, I've seen some poor treatment of some of our beloved players. Back Cleon Jones, Tom Seaver, the way he went the first time. The way your Met career under Art Howe was strange for me. Todd Zeile, who while was a very good player here for the Mets and a great guy, got a tremendous send-off the last day of the season as a Met. You at that point, it was pretty evident, I'd say 99.99% sure that you were going to be leaving as well. We're given a third of an inning and only like a half-hearted official acknowledgement that you were moving on. I am so thrilled that the Mets more than made up for that with that tremendous night celebrating you and inducting you into the Mets Hall of Fame. Lou Carnesecca was on hand. Teammates from across Met decades were on hand. Doc and Darryl. David Cohn, who never comes out to these type things. Jeff Innes, Brett Saberhagen. That's from the period that the Mets kind of don't even acknowledge existed. Al Leiter, Todd Zeile, and Fonzie from those great 99-2000 teams. What did seeing your former teammates end that night mean to you personally?
Well, it's a guy